Welcome to Nature Folklore Sessions. It's 31st of July 2022, which in Ireland is Bilberry Sunday and Garland Sunday. So here we go. Well, thank you for joining me for our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space and expressing the inspired visions that come to you from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and problem solving. Now, this is part 2 of our 4-part Lunar series and its first harvest. And the guests we've got on today, we've got Cliff Carr. We've got a lovely song from him, and kind of who does Cliff Carr sound like today? And we've got a lovely new video poem from Grace Wells. And there's Grace there. Wonderful. As usual, these Nature Folklore session videos, tree and water sanctuary support, are brought to you due to the support of our highly appreciated subscribers. And subscribers will be watching today, live today. Thank you for continuing to join us. And thank you for all your continued support. Because without it, I just couldn't fund putting on this show to share with you today. And I'm still struggling to cover weekly and annual expenses. So if you can help as a subscriber, there's the main link there. That's the Patreon link. If you can help out with $1, euro, or pound or more a month, it goes a long way collectively in keeping this show afloat. So many thanks for that. But if you're not comfortable with working with through PayPal, which is what Patreon does, there's this other option which has become very popular, the Buy Me a Coffee. And you just use your regular card on that, buymeacoffee.com, Nature Folklore, and you can just put a wee tip into that. That'd be fantastic. Thanks very much. So let's see the lovely early birds that we've got with us today, because it's a lovely day here in Ireland. It's a holiday day. It's Lunasadh Sunday holiday in Ireland. People might be bilberry picking, they may be at the Holy Wells, and they might be climbing Patrick or some other high points. And Cliff Carr is with us. So hello, Cliff. Lovely to have someone with us because it is beautiful. It is a holiday. I don't expect any Irish people to be watching this until this evening or in the week, but grateful for anyone who can catch us live, of course. This is absolutely fabulous. So a couple of things I want to talk about before I get onto the main topics today. I haven't got any pictures coming up for a while, but it is heavy loaded with photographs today and videos. But for a while, I'm only allowed to use so many photographs in a group here. So I used up my quota and we won't get to them for a while. But there's a couple of things I want to talk about that's come up. The National Monument Service, they posted a remarkable short video. And I think I'll play this first and then I'll talk about what this is about in a moment. Let's get on to the video and track that down if I was allowed this. So this is the National Monument Service of Ireland's video. And I didn't see... Pretty hard hitting, isn't it? So some explanation for that, because recently there's been a lot of problems with vandalizing and people not respecting the ancient place and not realizing that they are more fragile than what people make them out to be. The ancient megalith sites, known as ancient monuments, There's been an escalation of abuse with them, with increased number of people climbing over them, as you saw there, and also as becoming more popular is actually setting fires on them, around them, and even inside them. And there's candle wax and dyes spilled over the stones outside and inside. Various floor coverings have been dragged in, including stealing animal feed from the farmers. Graffiti is being carved on the stones. I love Julie, that type of stuff. And there's also people are saying, well, why not? Why can't we do this? This is our place. And there's a lot of my freedoms people voicing these actions of trying to control the climbing and the fires and so forth. They say, oh, this is just government-based heritage and archaeological care. They shouldn't be telling people what to do. It's a violation of our connection to ancestors, coming up with all that. So freedoms, as I say. But during the first 50 years of visiting ancient megalithic sites myself, I barely saw anyone visit them. There wasn't really that much interest. There were certainly small groups, the sort of ones that Cliff Carr joins, and they would certainly visit, but be highly respectful as well. And all visits were quiet, very little intrusion. And surprisingly, I noticed this is still so when we visited sites on our tours of the USA. There's some amazing ancient sites over there, especially the native people's medicine wheels, for example. But and there's mounds, just like what we got here, but nobody knows they're there. Nobody visits them there. They'll come over here and visit the ones here, of course. But during the past 15 years, a very active social media with many online groups formed to explore the archaeology, mythology, and folklore that surrounds these ancient sites, not only of Ireland, but Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, England, Brittany, very much Brittany, and more recently within more other countries within Europe and beyond, before the troubles in Ukraine, for instance. That was getting very popular, ancient monument tourism going. And many people have set up in businesses, and they interest people. They're very good guys. They provide interesting and entertaining niche tours for small groups of people. They bring people to the places, tell the stories. And for the DIY follower, there are now many wonderful books, maps, mobile apps, and various guiding tools for your own self-exploration. But many of those DIY things are unfortunately the curse of the local farmers, because visitors see them, and in some of the books they even encourage, just cross the field, it doesn't matter. But farmers are finding their lands being violated by mass amounts of visitors who just willy-nilly get over the land. And it's not just them, but they take their dogs over land, often unleashed, leaving litter from picnics, leaving gates undone, and annoying the cattle, annoying the sheep, doing other damage. And if you come to Ireland now, you'll notice the Loughcrew cairns are all locked up. The mound of hostages on Tara has very limited access. Carrickeel now is said to be about to be locked up. And there's also extra security active, I believe, or being considered at places like Carramore, Rathcrowan, and other County Roscommon royal sites. So I think expect more sites to get more organised, like Newgrange and Ushnick, that have incredible demands for visits, much more than what free reign of the sites could ever allow. So most tour groups and DIY explorers, they do actually respect and they do conduct minimal visits, but there has to be the few, isn't there? And there is the fast increasing visitor numbers, and that's the challenge in its own right. Now a lot of tour groups and retreat groups, because they're competing with each other, have introduced quite a lot of theatre into their itineraries and programs. And their activities can and do now include rituals, ceremonies, and unfortunately the troublesome fire too. So their impact on some sites have actually become quite mighty, and they've created damage too, which is very unfortunate. But I do emphasize it's only a minority of groups, most of the groups visiting, most individuals too, are respectful because they want to sustain their revisits with more people. But because ancient megalithic interest has been a huge boost to tourism and hospitality services, of course, that's encouraged, especially here in Ireland. But this may start reversing, this niche tourism, unfortunately. Don't want this to happen, but it might start reversing soon if there is more damage. It's a big issue at the moment, and that's what the film's all about. Some of those ancient megalithic places, the visiting numbers are just far too much. Some farmers actually have been creative. They've integrated very well with tourism opportunities. Ushnik, I mentioned. If you go down the Beara Peninsula at Ardgroom, I know, and also Jura, the farmers have kind of organized things a little bit, and it's very welcoming all the same. Just a little bit of caution. So be patient if you do visit, because a farmer is usually wise to conservation and protection also of his farming or her farming practices. But some farmers are limiting the number of people who can actually visit the sites and get to the ancient megalithic sites. And that's getting frustrating to the increase in number of tourists, of course. So that's the introduction. Anyway, one approach I would like to see much more emphasis on, and I bring this up a lot on the Nature Folklore, how about much more emphasis on visiting the holy sacred wells? A lot of people are doing that as part of Garland Sunday today, because many of these ancient water sources are actually reverse of these megalithic cairns and structures, and they're hardly visited. And they're suffering disappearances because people are not visiting them, they're not attending to them, and certainly not using to them. Yeah, these natural sources of water must have been very sacred to human people a long time before these megalithic stone structures were created. And to me, I regard those structures that may well have been built just for the elite of the ancient times, the elite of the tribe of those ancient times. So if that's so, what are we worshipping when we visit these things? But compare this, I believe the sacred water sources, they're for everyone, aren't they? And I feel that these precious water sources should still be sacred to us still today, be restored, be respected, and most important, actually be used. The water's there for us, after all. Anyway, sorry that I didn't have any photos on that, but let's see what you're saying so far. There's a couple more comments have come through. Claire's here, and she's coming through the YouTube. What a light you are in the world. Thank you, Claire. Claire's my light too, so there we go. And there's a new one here from YouTube. Maria Wren, based in Dublin. We got someone from Ireland despite the holidays. Lovely to have you along, Maria. Young Wren, Maria Wren. Lovely. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And then Sherry's here. Good morning, everyone, from down East Maine. Lovely here today, but it's going to go very hot, 86 Fahrenheit. Oh, sorry. Lovely to have you here, Sherry. Lovely indeed. So, what we got going here? Now, it was new moon last Thursday, wasn't it? Thursday we have the new moon. I'm just trying to get to our photographs here because I will be using some photographs very, very soon. And in ancient India and Hindu tradition, the new moon of July or early August, when we refer to our Gregorian calendar, it's a major annual observance to Hindu people. And I picked up the following. It's amazing information by an Indian woman who posted in one of the Facebook Druid groups. But it was one of those groups where stuff's posted frequently, and I didn't catch her name, so very sorry if she's picking up on this. Because the post was drowned. I can't find her again. But I thought this is interesting, and I didn't have time to look further into this to get it verified. So maybe you know more than me on this one, especially if there's some Hindu people in the audience. So you could comment from what you know. So because this is probably very superficial as I'm based on this comment, but it fascinated me. Anyway, this is some of the information that this Hindu woman posting. She said that India still follows the lunar month calendar, In business, they still use the Gregorian, but rurally and amongst themselves and families, the lunar month calendar is still very strong. And each new cycle starts at the point or even the day of the new moon. And of course, the point of the day of the new moon was the 28th of July. And to them, an important point or day of the new moon within what we call July, can be early August to the Hindus. It's known to them as Ammas. The lunar month that follows at that day or point of Ammas is known as Asa. A-S-A-D or A-S-A-D-H. You might have already picked up what I'm getting to with this. Because Lu in Sanskrit, we refer to Lughnasadh. In Sanskrit, is Lord Indra. And Lord Indra is the thunder god. And as you know, with this heat that we get at this time, this is a more likely time in India, Ireland, or maybe probably in India as well. As well as the heat, we do get the thunderstorms and we get the showers as well. So that's it. Lu in Sanskrit, Lord Indra, and especially he's revered to during the moon cycle of Asa. So there we go. And so the day or the start of the Hindu celebration, that like it was the 28th of July this year, that point is known as Luammas. And Hindus have extended that day description. They call that day the Hariyala Amasawaya. It's a more recent thing. I think I got the pronunciation right. But that really means it's the abundant green day of Lu. And now the following lunar month is known to Hindus as Lunasa. Anyway, to kick off Lunasa first harvest traditions, let's have a bit of Cliff Khan. This time we got Cliff singing a live recording. It's from his garden. This is the actual, he hasn't got the robes on and so forth. This is an impromptu. He just went in the garden, sang a couple of songs. We got one of them today. And so we're going recording from his garden. And of course, I like to play the game of who does Cliff Carr sound like this week? I think we'll go for the Straubs today, Cliff. How about that? The Straubs, if anybody remembers the Straubs. So here we go. We got Cliff Carr. It's Autumn's Front Door is the actual song. So here we go. Right. Here we go, Cliff. You're on.
Hi, John. Cliff Carr here. Thanks for having me on your show. I'd like to share with you this little song. It's called Autumn's Front Door. Thank you. Dress your dollies with ribbons and twine. Thanks for the harvest sustaining our life. The champion amongst us wins battles and shines. Coming of Lammas and Lu they combine. Hand in hand, circle round. Call the spirits, our voices resound. Hand in hand, circle round. Thanks for the harvest from this fertile ground. On the trees they hang heavy to fall. Breeze that you feel is still blowing warm. Crops growing strong, corn growing tall. Turning the wheel without autumn's front door. Hand in hand, circle round. Call the spirits, our voices resound. Hand in hand, circle round. Thanks for the harvest from this fertile ground. Baking of bread from the thrashing of grain. John Barleycorn shows up again. of harvest traditions we do. Hand in hand, circle round, call the spirits, our voices resound. Hand in hand, circle round, thanks for the harvest from this fertile ground.
There we go. Thanks very much for that, Cliff. And that kind of takes us away from the other stuff I was talking about. So we get right into the first harvest and Lunasa stuff. And I got second song from Cliff, but I'm holding that off until 2 Sundays' time. And actually, the forecast probably more suited. It wouldn't be an appropriate song today. Well, it actually would, but at the time I was putting this together, we were supposed to have rain today. Anyway, let's see. There's someone else arrived. I noticed during a bit of clipping there. We have Catherine from Lake Michigan, Catherine Dorman. Lovely. And Cliff likes the, whoops, there we go. Cliff likes the straws. Good. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much for that, Cliff. Yeah, wonderful. And that was our bit of Cliff today, which fabulous. Always jolly, always lovely to include. Okay, today people are out, Bilberry Sunday, and it's Garland Sunday as well. According to our modern Gregorian Sunday calendar, I'm going to talk about that and the Garland traditions and origins. But for the Bilberry traditions, if you've not watched it yet, if you go back to last Sunday's Nature Folklore edition, I go quite deeply into the Bilberry tradition and history and fascinating stuff. But in some areas of Ireland, it might not be the best bilberry picking. We've got lovely weather here, but I gather the Wicklow Mountains, which is a lovely bilberry area, is a little bit drizzly today. But anyway, it doesn't matter, because those who gather together still have fun, still have a social crack. And that's probably mainly what it's all about. Maybe the picnic gathering is really what all people go along for. And they may be having their gathering around natural spring wells, blessed wells, or a holy well somewhere. Now, for garland making, daisies, I'm going to repeat some of the stuff I said last week, because daisies seem to be the most popular for the garland making. And there's a daisy garland there. They're easy to access, also buttercups as well. And sometimes made from ivy and honeysuckle, such as there. And then other flowers can be inserted into them as well, like in that lovely one there where the lavender's been wrapped in. Fantastic. Now, I am repeating some of the stuff I shared last Sunday, just to give you a little bit of continuity in what I'm going to be talking about very shortly. Now, by tradition, flower garlands were made and worn by girls who were without children, such as these. And mainly girls were doing this, and but some boys made garlands too. There's a girl there, and there's a boy who's made a garland, and then gifted them to girls. And that's certainly me and my mates, so that's what we did when we were youngers as well. And as you will know, or at least heard on Nature Folklore, the traditional mating time is Beltner, early May. And another tradition mentioned here on Nature Folklore is women seeking for visions of their future mate at the Holy Well. And maybe doing it like this. And doing that either at Imbolg or on May Day Eve. And those who mated in early May, they'll certainly be well and truly aware of their pregnancy if it occurred by Lunasa by now. Now, some traditions regard Lunasa time as a time for preparations for marriage. There's a couple who are thinking about it there, very much so. And this is a place in Donegal. I'm going to talk in a little bit about that. That's actually a hold stone. That's Glen Columkill in Donegal. But there's also tales that this was a time every year that Lou got married as well. So he had many wives. If he got married every Lunasa, he certainly would. But of course, that's just a storyteller thing. But about the conception followed by Lunasa blessing marriage also suggests a tradition of all human births actually happening at Sawan. And if this was so, can you imagine the whole human race of Scorpio people? Let's see if I got some Scorpio people. Let's see. It looks like I've got photos in a... Sorry, there we go. People like this. Can you imagine the whole race of Scorpio people? People with sun in Scorpio, that's what I'm talking about here. I suppose it's all serpent race with Kundalini rising and creating a total way of life around the Kundalini. Now, there are myths, the tales of the arrival of the Tree of Life on Earth. And when the Tree of Life came along, it separated the signs of Virgo and Scorpio. And there's the Tree of Life in the middle. And that tree in the middle was in ancient times actually the symbol of Libra before it became the scales. And that's according to Greek teachings anyway. That comes from a teaching from an ancient university on the Isle of Kos in Greek. So I think it was through the Greeks the symbol actually changed the scales maybe. Now, the concept of human race, as I say, with Sun in Scorpio, it reminds me when Chairman Mao was leading China, a dictator of China, and he declared that all holidays for the Chinese had to be around spring equinox. And couples, the way he did work programs, it separated the men from their wives. So they couldn't even get close to their wives until they had these holidays around the spring equinox. And apparently the whole design of that was that if couples all got together at the spring equinox, the entire Chinese population would have been born very close to Mao's birthday. His birthday was 26th of December. Anyway, enough of world myths. Let's get back to the Garlands and the more localized Garland Sunday. Now, last Sunday, I talked about bilberry picking, of course, and I talked about garland making while out bilberry picking for people at least just around Ireland who may be doing that today. But today I'm going to talk about the garlands much more as being part of the first harvest traditions. And I've no idea which was on the first, the Garland Sunday, or as an extension of the Bilberry Sunday, or first harvest. I have a feeling humans were picking bilberries and flowers and making garlands in ancient times before, well before they learned how to do cereal farming. So I speculate honoring the bilberries and flowers and as part of the mating dance is the much older tradition than the cutting of barley, the first harvest. But with any traditions, they evolve with the evolving changes, and the clans change things and around, and the changing clans change traditions. And there'll be arranged marriages to bring clans together, of course, and there'll be treaties, and along with the treaties, the whole change of traditions. So you got literally these sort of Romeo and Juliet traditions, and the whole year and a day thing, bringing families together. That's okay, get together at this time at Lunasa and have a trial marriage for a year today. If there's a child born, then the marriage stays together. If not, then all the treaties are void, and the partners can go off in some other way with other partners. Now, some of traditions, because of these matings and treaties. Some traditions merged and other parts of traditions discarded and then perhaps added by another clan to a tradition. So there's always an organic changing. Now, the most recent first observations of first harvest, they probably go back as far as 1100 to 1200 years ago. I love that postage stamp representing that. That's a postage stamp from the UK. And anyway, when the tradition got going for first harvest 1100, 1200 years ago, it more likely did include older traditions that included a hill climb with girls and young women wearing garlands on their heads. And these garlands were made and were worn by the girls and women who have not yet given birth to children, just like it used to be with the making of the breeder dolls and the breeder cross making as part of the older tradition. So women climb the hill wearing their garland headband and holding a first harvest offering. I couldn't find a picture of that. It's the nearest thing I get. She hasn't got a garland on, but she's climbing the hill of a loaf of bread with bread to take it to the top. So there we go. That's the best I could do for illustrating that. And if the women knew that she had conceived and was carrying a child, then her mate would accompany her. I think that's a lovely portrayal of that. Even though she's not wearing a garland, she's got a bunch of flowers. But anyway, the mate will be accompanying her up the hill there. And in later years, a single woman from a community, instead of individual women going up, as I was saying, traditions merged and they changed. So instead of individual women going up to declare their bonding, the community would come together and they would elect a Lunasa queen, just like the May Queen. So there we are. So to put more pageant into it. So that's how they changed to that. But that tradition is more for women. That hasn't really seen much. Right, I think I'm back. I hope I'm back with you. I'm sorry, everything just froze and it threw me out. The photos froze. Yeah, am I back again? Let's see. Oh dear, it's all going so lovely. I'm just going to check my. I'm still back. Yeah, the audio seems to be back. Am I back? 1 2 1 2. Yeah, I think I'm back. Right, back again. You're saying I'm back again. Thumbs up. Libra's my sign. Would love to be the tree of its symbol. Says Benny. There we go. Everybody's giving me the thumbs up. We're back again. And Cliff Carr said my mum was a Scorpio child. And Penny Stevens is here. Jane Lang has joined through the YouTube. Hello, Jane here. Okay, now we're back again. Right, and now let's get back to what I was chatting about, and hopefully, I you'll be able to see the photos again. No, the photos haven't gone up yet. No, May Queen has vanished. May Queen's that I was talking about. That photo has vanished. Right. I'm collecting up the broadcast as fast as possible here so I can keep commencing. Okay. Right. There we go. What are we doing? Yeah. I'm still. Right. I'm still lost. Sorry about that. I wonder where I got cut off. Anyway, I think I was talking about the May Queen. I'm still trying to get everything back up and running again after we got. Anyway, I was talking about the how individual women going up the hill, accompanied by their mates, replaced by May Queen, but that was a tradition more for England and Wales. In Ireland, it seems to be the tradition was taken over by the elders, usually men carrying something up the hill, something to donate from the first harvest. And of course, those men were wearing garlands, probably the local priest, and accompanied by local congregation. I've heard stories of that as well. Either way, it became a patriarchal transferred church duty. But the patriarchal alternative, I think it faded away about 40 or 50 years ago. So today, let's see if I can get you a picture. The tradition still exists. And there we go. That's what a lot of people are doing today. And there is Gary Brannigan, and he's up there today. He's actually doing, I don't know what he's doing actually. He says he's doing a 35-kilometer pilgrimage before he even climbs Croagh Patrick. So I don't know if he's doing the whole thing barefooted, but we'll hear from Gary at some point. Anyway, there's a fragment of the hill climbing there, and if there's not hill climbing, there's running around the hills or even mountain biking, pilgrimage hikes, all those sort of things seem to be carrying on as if it's like a semi-replacement to the climbing up the hill as part of the mating dance or for the donating of the first harvest. Now, the village of Keash in County Sligo, they used to feature the Garland Sunday climb. But they now host running and walking races around the base of the hill a day or two before. I thought I had a poster on that, but I haven't got that at the moment. But they do this a day or two before the Garland Sunday that they host. Anyway, I'm going to carry on more about some Garland Sunday origins and hopefully make a bit more sense of this annual ritual. Now, the top of the hill, the women who are wearing the garlands I featured earlier, they're up there with the garlands, either by themselves or they're accompanied by the mate. And I couldn't get a very good picture of that, but once they're up there, they dig a hole, and small holes really, and they would take off their own flower garlands that they made, and they would bury the garland in these holes. And also these women would also perform a first harvest Thanksgiving. They'd take something up. The earliest tradition would be to take up a loaf of bread, break it up, feed it to the birds there, and that's believed to be a donation thanking the goddess for an abundant harvest. And also from this earliest tradition, the first loaf was made with barley. There's a beautiful barley loaf there, a few barley loaves, because barley was the first main cereal crop of the settled farmers. And that was soon followed by oats, very nutritious oats, and rye. The wheat came much later. Now, the first barley was harvested at the dawn of Garland Sunday, so they say. And, which Garland Sunday? Are we going to be following the moon tradition like the Hindus, or the Gregorian calendar as well? Anyway, from that barley, from the first cuttings, that, as I say, the loaf was baked, and some of that barley actually from the first things would be malted in order to make the first ale as well. And corn dollies, they would be made from the straws, from the stalks and the heads, and they look very pretty, don't they? But they have a double purpose. They're a kind of a reverence to the corn goddess, Groinia, or whatever the goddess is. Onya is another one. And so the corn dolly is a thanksgiving, but look, it holds the seeds. And the idea is to hold the seeds through the winter, and that's a storage of seeds to be sown the next year. And there's a few more beautiful corn dollies. And as you see, they're still holding seeds as well. But this Lammas time, Lammas, first Mass, is the or Lumas, as it was in Hindu. Bless the bread time. There you go. That's putting it all together there. Now, I was talking about the Hindu tradition of Ammas earlier. And here we have two meanings, and I'll try to unravel this by next year. Maybe you can help me if you know reverence to these things from your own traditions, that Hindu Ammas compared with our Lammas. Anyway, once at the top of the hill, one or two things were done by the women. I pretty much explained that already anyway. But I love this picture from Iran. This is women on top of the hills in Iran. They're baking bread. They do a flatbread up there. And this is a summer tradition that they do there. I haven't got any local ones doing that, but I think that Iran photo's lovely. And I've got another one here as well. And that's another one. Woman making that, she's actually making the bread there, so it's not taking the bread up, it's actually taking the flour up and making and baking and doing the whole thing there. Anyway, that's the best I could do on photos, and that I think they're fascinating because these traditions are not Celtic traditions. They're now exclusive to Ireland, Scotland, Wales, UK. They've traveled the world, they've traveled west. Anyway, the first loaf, as I say, broken up, left for the birds and buried with some of the loaf is buried with a garland in a small hole that was mentioned. And the tradition of the broken bread was eventually, you don't see people taking bread up now, it's potatoes. In Ireland, they take the potatoes up, so they donate the potatoes at the top of the hill. And the tradition is don't dig up the potatoes too early, because that's just not on. Some storytellers have told me of a ritual of the cooking the potatoes on the hills, just like those women around baking the bread. But I'm not sure about that one. But I think it'd be a great crack if you could have the fuel up there. And maybe, I don't know. No, you couldn't do the heather because the heather's about to come out. But if you get the fuel, I would say cooking the potatoes would be a very good crack. So when the potatoes took over from the first harvest bread, just like with the first harvest bread, it became custom. Never dig up your early potatoes before Garland Sunday. Never dig up your potatoes before the 31st of July. Today, there we go. That's what you can do today. So all of you polytunnel super early potato growers, you're doomed. Anyway, I'm going to get on to Grace Wells. I'm going to line up her video. She's got a beautiful video for this season. I hadn't set it up earlier, so let's, I think, it's not going to be too difficult. I think we got that great, fantastic. And as I say, Grace has released a beautiful poetry film. It's Lunasa Gratitude is what it's called. So I think I have a picture of Grace to honor her before we start. There's Grace there. Let's get Grace back up again. There she is there. Wonderful. So I'll line up the film for you. And this is Lunar Gratitude by Grace Wells coming up any moment now. Well, should be. There.
Gratitude. The festival for harvest. Long, generous days where the light hardly ends. Time of Anya, goddess of summer. Time of Lu, god of light. Long Lunasa days that so slowly surrender to the linger of evening. Lunasa nights of fire and music. Nights white with the harvest moon. The earth at her fullest, summer at her height. In the fields, the herds increase. The air, a trace of lark and swallow. Her gardens in harvest. Her gardens a posy of blossom and butterfly. Nothing to ask for, nothing to prove. Days of shelter and ease. Days spacious enough for appreciation. Each a harvest festival. Each a prayer. I shake off the thankless mind. I ease open my summer heart. I disengage from the addictions of my time. I count my gifts. I thank my lucky stars. My prayer, a song of praise to the ample world.
Ah, gorgeous. Thanks so much for that, Grace. I think it's my favorite Grace Wells film so far. They just seem to get better and better. And I hope I came across okay to you, okay? Because signal here was breaking up again. The computer was freezing, but I think the broadcast of that went through and Cliff enjoyed that. So obviously it came through. It didn't break up for you. I'm trying to get Cliff's up, and that's, as I say, frozen at the moment. There you go. There's Chris. Beautiful words accompanying from Grace. Penny, absolutely stunning. Thanks very much. And Grace, your film and poem, rich and touching. It just gets better and better. She really has got the art of and craft of that, and the team she's got around with her. Absolutely fabulous moment to have this afternoon. And Grace is not watching. She will later on, I think. So grateful for that. Fantastic. Anyway, another thing to carrying on to consider how traditions have changed through Lunasa, and especially with the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. And I think I've got the man himself. It's not going to take the full screen, but there he is, or well, he should be. As I say, I'm freezing up again. Now, oh, there he is. He's there. That's the Pope Gregory himself who caused all this chaos ever since. I hope you're still getting through. I'm still showing my signal is being very, very weak, and I'm getting stuff frozen. Uh, Stuff's freezing on me. So I hope we'll get through this because I've got some lovely stuff coming up. So I hope it behaves. Right. Anyway, it's interesting to note that potatoes actually arrived in Ireland, in County Cork. And like I was saying, there's a transition on the hills from bread to potatoes. It seems as soon as Pope Gregory came along, brought in this calendar, boom, we were onto potatoes as well, because the two things happened around the same time. The potatoes actually seemed to come to Ireland just a few years after Pope Gregory put his calendar together around so on 1582. And there's a lot of sorts of historical urban legends that you find around Ireland, and one of them doesn't add up. It said the word Raleigh brought potatoes to Ireland. That's what the myth said. But no, it wasn't. It's more like between herbalists, English herbalists called, you probably know what your herbalist, English herbalist, and he brought up there. These. Hello, I'm back again. Sorry, I got to spend another few minutes trying to get everything geared up again. Sorry, as I say, I can see it coming, knocking off. We got full signal again, so I think everything is repaired. Um, right, hope you're still with me again. Let's see. Are you getting, are you hearing and seeing me again? Let's check all of the audio. Hello, yes, you're getting the audio, and I see you're getting camera. We should be in business again. Back again, John says, Cliff. I don't know what's happening today. It's great fun. Right, Penny. urban myths. It wasn't Sir Walter Raleigh who brought potatoes to Ireland. It was John Gerard. Let's see if I can pull John Gerard back up out of the photographs again. Let's get I've still got to unfreeze a few things that's happened during that. So sorry about that. Oh boy. Right, we should be back in the business now. John Gerard, where are you? We'll get you back. He's somewhere here. John Gerard is, there we go. There we go. John Gerard, famous herbalist. He's likely to be the one who brought the potatoes into Cork. He was a herbalist. He brought them to a pal of his in Cork. And herbalists today are still using the reproduction of his book. You might be familiar with that. The Gerard's Herbal, an ancient book from around the time of Pope Gregory. And still, anyway, that's where the potatoes came from. I suppose he thought there must have been some sort of herbal remedy with them anyway. But that's who got everybody had to have potatoes after they came in. Excuse me. Anyway, to be a simpleton, to explain the transition, I speculate that the origins of the first harvest of barley was never on the 31st of July, because that 31st of July didn't really exist. Rural people just didn't hold the Gregorian calendar. They may have had a local wise person to advise them of the day and time, according to the cross-quarter calculations, but more likely the people followed the moon calendars, as this was visual. They could see when there's no moon. They could see the fingernail and that disappearing. So, like with Hindu tradition at this time, the nearest new moon at this time would be the chosen first harvest time. And as long as they've been ripening, of course, that's the most important thing. And even today with our gardens, the best time to harvest our winter storage crops is actually at new moon time. If you had been growing potatoes, carrots, parsnips, marrows, that type of thing, best time to have harvested Oh, I'm back again. Oh, sorry. It's just knocking me out and bringing me back. I don't know what is going on in the background. Anyway, that includes cereals too. The best time to cut cereals is actually a new moon time. But if you're canning or freezing your crops, you actually is best to wait till full moon time, because at full moon time, that's when the crops are actually at their tastiest. The water has risen the best that they can, the flavor has risen into but if you actually pick stuff for preserving a new moon time, it doesn't preserve as well as if you pick stuff at full moon time at best flavor, it doesn't preserve as well on a drying rack as the new moon stuff does. Anyway, for dry storage, as a dry stuff for storage, new moon, including your wheat, barley, your cereals, fresh stuff for canning or for the freezer, get it at full moon. Anyway, it was the church doctrine that's been setting with the Gregorian 31st of July, and alongside the potato popularity that was occurring at the same time around 1600, then there was the firm tradition setting in that also don't cut your cereals until 31st of July. So the first harvest is today. And that started about 420 years ago that church doctrine came about. Anyway, I'm going to check your comments whilst things come back up and running. Thank you for all your thumbs up, back again, and so forth. I see I almost disappeared again for a few seconds, but I see that I'm still on full. Just joining in, catch the replay. Hi, Terry. Excuse the on and offs. For some reason, I've been cut off 3 times so far, so excuse if there is a cut off. I'm on full signal at the moment. Anyway, I should say it's worth the replay. our garlands. Now we cut it. I'm getting. And I'm back yet again, and I have settings are all to hell. So give me a couple of moments to get back into settings. The camera's all changed. Right, that's it. Let's get there we go. Back to the camera. Back to the audio. This tree, what we got? Yeah, I think we're back on. Right. Let's see how far I can get this time. I'm so sorry for this constant backup. I don't know why it keeps cutting off. Anyway, I was talking about the woman taking the garland off her head and about to bury it. Even I'm losing my thread with this. So anyway, we haven't got far to go, but this is the real juicy stuff coming up, because once a woman takes it, and if she's been walking up the hill, she's been pregnant, she would then break up a flower garland and scatter it to celebrate that she was about to change from being maiden to become mother, and so no longer qualified to wear the garland. So she breaks it up, scatters it, because she won't be climbing up that hill with a garland anymore. And other variations I've heard on that is actually the partner taking the garland off of his mate's head, and he does the breaking up and scattering of the garland. Maybe there's a bit of that going on here. Anyway, I've also heard of the removal of the garland being part of the union ceremony that bonds a couple as a commitment to becoming parents for the later birth. The whole year and a day thing comes in. And some storytellers tell of whole stones being on these hills as part of that ceremony. But I've not actually seen whole stones on the hills themselves, but there is a whole stone at Glendalough, if I've got a picture here. There you go, there's a whole stone. And the church people say, oh, the hole is there because there used to be a wooden pole in there to make it a cross. If they wanted a stone cross, they carved a stone cross. Now, that was actually I'll show you what happens. This is what happens. This is a demonstration. Same thing. There's a couple. They just got engaged. They were actually on a group that I took there, and they were attracted to each other. And there's a bit of a ceremony in the old days. And they're trying to get each other's eye. And if they got each other's eye, then they would join fingers through the whole stone, which is earthed into the ground there. But it said that there was renewal of vows, or the actual putting together of vows as parents, also happened at the same whole stone. Worth a visit too. The boat going to Beagmore. If anybody's been up the Sperrins, you got the Beagmore circles there. Very much a play around Beldner there. Males one side, I think, females the other. You can see a mound on that picture in the distance. I'm sure that had a whole stone on it. And when couples actually had got an attraction, they would go up there. And I think you can actually see a stone kind of corridor. And after they mated, they would disappear down that stone corridor. If you go to Beagmore, that's just one example. There's several of those in the field there. And there's also blueberries there. There's bilberries as well. Anyway, I'm going to spend, well, in case I get cut off, I was going to spend a few minutes on that, but I think I'll leave it at that one and leave it to your imagination. Oh, I'm starting to get trouble again. I hope we'll stay I hope we stay together. Anyway, last week I talked about a major Ulster Bilberry Day gathering that happened on the Sperry Mountains, and I forgot where the location was. And that happens now, not Beagmore, where I pointed out, but a few miles away, not far away, a place called Craigamaddy Hill, and it's north of Gortin was the little town I was trying to think of the name of. That's in County Tyrone. I'd like to spend more time talking about the Beagmore circles sometime, but I talk about that in the Beltane edition as well. Anyway, I've heard also of taking garlands up the hill ceremony being changed again after the after the Gregorian day kicked in. The church was sort of frowning a lot on these hill climbs and what was going on. So the hill ceremony got rerouted to graveyards. And I don't have any photos, fortunately, in a way, but the broken garlands, instead of being broken on the top of the hill, the broken garlands were scattered on Garland Sunday over the graves of family ancestors. So we're getting away from the mating and we're contacting our immediate ancestors through the graves. And then there'd be keening as well. These women would actually make garlands, break up the garlands, throw them on the burial stones, and there'd be a session of keening by the women present, keening for the ancestors. But this has been cheered up ever since, because anyway, after the keening, there was always some dancing nearby, maybe as part of the bilberry picking. You know, bilberry pickers would arrive as well. There'd be bilberry pie break as well. But I've also heard of stories that the priests were discouraging all of this. It was okay to do the garland stuff in the cemetery, but the hill stuff and the fornications and all the symbol stuff, they were trying to bring it down to the graveyard. Anyway, all about getting rid of, annihilating the debauchery off down to the graveyards. Also, this was all about celebrating the rewards of celibacy and penance. Do I have something on that? Now, I showed you a picture of Gary Brannigan, and before he got to Crowpatrick and his pilgrimage, he was visiting Holy Wells through Roscommon and also in Mayo. And one of the visits he went to was a holy well at a place called Oran. And Oran is a little village. It's in between Roscommon and Ballymore. And as I say, the keening ceremony did after a while leave the cemeteries and went around the wells. And apparently today there'll be a lot of people with their garlands around this well. And as Gary pointed out, this is a photograph of his from yesterday. He reckoned that was a full immersion well, and a well that seems to be known locally for healing legs and feet. And people would just immerse their whole selves in there to get rid of the pain. And I would say after Gary has done his 35 kilometers and up and down Crowpatrick, I wouldn't be surprised if he'll be popping by that well on the way home to sink his feet into that as well. This Garland Sunday is quite famous around Tobernaut Well, that's outside of Sligo, and there's a gathering there around the Mass Rock that is by the well. And instead of keening, the women there, they're actually singing. They're singing joyful songs and in lovely chorus instead of the wailing keening. So that's another change that's happened with the tradition. But perhaps the Wellside meetups, the church encourage a reduction of hillside fornication that happens through the bilberry picking, especially during the picnic crack. As I said, the picnic crack on the hills also happened around the wells and pools as a break from the bilberry. And I am back yet again, and hopefully everything is still rocking and rolling, and just checking my settings yet again. This is frustrating. Anyway, yes, I'm back. I'm taking a chance. I'm believing that's all, and a green screen has kind of disappeared on me. There we go. Let's see, we'll try the pictures again. And I was saying that in Cation County, Sligo, if I can find the poster, they got their afternoon going on, and that's the sort of thing. It's a family day, the Garlands Sunday, and it's up and running. And they haven't run this for a few years because of the COVID, and so they've got a nice afternoon. That's fantastic. But one development from the original tradition there was the one thing about Lunasa. It's not only the mating dance, the discovery of pregnancy after the Beldner get together. So there's a celebration of growing life from birth, because a Beldner is also the sowing of the cereals. So you got the two sort of birth to harvest that's happening. And as I say, if you look down the list there, what do you see? I think you'll see there is a baby show. So she's probably been in the baby show as well. And also appearing in the oh, here we go again. No, I think we're fine this time. And also appearing as some of the first harvest stories is a goddess. I lost the photos of this, but the goddess hound that greets the women when they're at the top of the hill wearing their garlands. So, of course, there we go. Maybe that's a goddess hound. There we go. Irish wolfhound, we can call that a goddess hound. So what, of course, they have at the Case Show and shows like it, to represent that, they have a dog show. So they have the dog show and the baby show as the sort of modern reinterpretation of that ancient story. Anyway, next up, I'm going to talk about how hill and mountain pilgrimages are now celebrated. A bit more about that, how they're celebrated. So, have I missed any of your comments whilst I've been coming and going? Thank you for your patience, Sherry. You've handled all these glitches with such grace. Thank you very much. As long as there's some continuity. So let's get talking about these mountain pilgrimages. If I can, there we go. There's some people leaping up the mountain. They're leaping up Crowpatrick, I assume, there. And you may be aware of the Crowpatrick pilgrimage, the Reek, as a lot of people call it, or Crow Lure. So let's show you some pictures of that. There you go. There's another. That's towards the bottom of that. And then as you get to the tricky part, there's the base there. A lot of people try and do this before it's light. So there we go. And as you're just about halfway up, you just got up through the slag. But it won't be as quiet as that. Not today when you get that far. It'll be a bit more like this. Sorry, I got glitches again. More like this. Yes, this. Oh, no, come on. It went. There we go. That's after it being lime washed. But right now, it's probably more like this. And you see there's a little bit of a mass box on the outside for the people. I think they can go in and out as well, because I gather most of it's done from the mass box outside, but there are photos of the mass being done inside, and here's a bit of inside mass going on there. There's a priest reading the instructions there. But of course, there are a tradition there is people walk to the summit of that Crowpatrick barefooted as part of the penance. You know, there's this whole penance thing from the mating dance. So this poor, I don't know if he's been up and down or whether he's thinking, what the hell, you know, and whether it's sort of a W2F moment. What am I thinking of? I don't know. Maybe he's been up and down already. Here's some enthusiastic barefooted person climbing up the Crowpatrick here, and there's a show off. He's done the job. He's just taking a bit of a rest there. So that's it. That's the penance barefooted version. They're not carrying any loaves or potatoes, and not reverence for the first harvest is reverence for the church and reverence for their sins. Look, instead of fornicating on this day, I'm going to go barefooted. Anyway, this, as I say, sadly, it's replaced taking up the contributions of first harvest. But it's not the only hill. Croagh Patric's not the only hill that's celebrating this. Church Mounting, similar is happening there. And actually, this is County Wicklow, and I think it's a bit misty. And this is a drone shot at the top. As you see, that was an ancient cairn. And then early medieval times, someone stripped away the cairn and they built a little church in the middle. That's why it's called Church Mountain. So that's some serious vandalism that went on in that time. But people go up there. Also, there's a lot of bilberries up that hill, apparently. So it's very good to do both, your penance and your bilberry picking, and even your garlands. You could do the whole lot there on Church Mountain in County Wicklow. Bandon Hill in Cork, I'm not familiar too much with this. It's a big get-together. That apparently is a photo from the top. If anybody in Cork knows more about the Bandon Hill climb, please let me know. Slieve Donard is another one up there in Down, County Down, north of, that's above Newcastle. People go up there, and I think I've got a top photo of that. There we go. It's a double picture of the top of Slieve Donard. So that's another Garland Sunday climb. And then, of course, even the Hill of Caish, I mustn't forget that. There's not all dog shows and baby shows. There you go. You can see the little piglets, the little she-hills on the right. They don't climb that. They actually climb the big one up there. And there's a place called the Pinnacle cairn, and that's a standing stone on top of the pinnacle. And as you look, it's looking across to, oh God, going brain dead. Knocknarea, of course. Knocknarea there by Strand Hill is looking towards, and there's the pinnacle standing stone. So some people still climb that today, and it's around the pinnacle stone, around that cairn where people used to leave their first harvest bread or their potatoes. And right, comments, and because I'm gonna penance and bilberry picking happening on Wicklow. Terry thought that was a good one. Right, thank you, Terry. Thank you. Now, in 2 Sundays' time, I'm going to talk more about Lunasa traditions because Claire and I were actually off on our holidays next Sunday. So I'm not broadcasting next Sunday, actually, it's Sunday off, but I will be doing the 2 Sundays after that. But Lunasa is or was a big day for feasting after the harvest because it is, after all, it's a harvest after a lean food and fasting. People would have been down fishing, getting shellfish, foraging, that type of stuff. And it's also a celebration time of fitness through sports. And there's a somewhat darker interpretation of the first harvest offering of going up the hill. And this brings the different stories of the Crom Dove. Here's again a picture of the Crom Dove. That's someone dressed up as Crom Dove there, up in Limerick at the Grange Circle. And also the Crom Cruach. And I'm going to talk about these in 2 Sundays' time. But the Crom Dove there, as I say, is put across as a fearful character, but it's not really fearful, quite a blessing, really. But storytellers do seem to earn more reward from scaring us rather than giving us sweet blessing stories. And it's not much different today, is it? You know, if you go, if you look at television and streaming dramas, same thing goes on, doesn't it? You know, so the writers seem to think the darker they make the story, the more popular they'll be. As I say, Crom Cruach, a lovely character who will feature in 3 Sundays' time, is there. I feel the lost traditions and folklore of Crom Dove and Crom Cruach may have denied us a more intimate gratitude to this first harvest time, because with the popularity of the hill walks and the penance, it may be forgotten about the first harvest, especially as we have not had a starvation time like ancient people, because there are the polytunnel growers, there is the imported food, and we can get the same food all year round now. But even I know when I was raising a family in the Hebrides, we still found the June and July a little bit lean, and then there was all this abundance end of July, early August, and that's how people were full of the reverence. And you got all this abundance, but you're so busy preserving stuff, like we were putting the carrots and the beetroot into dry sand. We'd be putting the potatoes on and apples on racks, and we'll be putting beans on layers of salt in ceramic jars, and then the soft stuff, the tomatoes, peppers, maybe other stuff, would be canning and pickling. So there's not much of that now, of course. So it's all very different. Anyway, I look forward to sharing the legends of those traditions very, very soon. There's a few Lunasa things I've not covered today. It's a huge subject, and I'm sorry we just keep getting cut off. So I'm going to flash through these extra, and they're very important Lunasa things, because I've said really nothing about Lu, have I? So here's a lightning presentation of his foster mother. You might know the spelling, Tailtiu. A lot of people say Teochew, but most people who want to be authentic, it's Dolchu. And I feel sorry because I feel sorry for her, because her story is very similar, I find. Now, here's a lovely artist impression of all of the elements of Dolchu brought together. And now I'm trying to find that. Anyway, I find the story is very similar to John Barleycorn. And I'm trying to find my John Barleycorn picture. And now my John Barleycorn. Where is John Barleycorn? I'll try and bring John Barleycorn up, because it give a bit of continuity for that. Yes, give me a second. John Barleycorn. There he is. We'll get him up. I haven't got the photo into the line yet. Let's see. There's a little bit of John Barleycorn there. That's for sure. It's not much, but there he is in the corn there. So I feel that the Dolchu very much it's symbolic of cutting the cereals, and also the stories of the goddess Onya and Gronya are very similar. But the Onya and Gronya is more symbolic to the ripening of the cereals before they're actually cut, whereas Dolchu is very much related to the cutting the cereal. So the ripening of the cereals very much represented by Onya and Gronya. And also the setting sun, Onya especially for the setting sun that happens on through the June and July, because we have the long, when it is sunny, there's long daylight, lots of sun, and it said that's Onya shining over the cereals to ripen them, because as from now, as we're into August, the daylight time rapidly gets shorter. It's been long since the midsummer, and it hasn't got much shorter, but now we'll see a rapid drawing in of the nights. Anyway, the most common Dolchu story today is of a clearing forest. So the settled farmers could have fields to grow cereals. And of course, if she was alive today doing that, I don't think Greta would be too happy about it. She'd be campaigning against Dolchu, and I would be too. Even so, the land was cleared in ancient times, and here's another artist impression of Dolchu as a goddess. And but the wood that was taken down, of course, it wasn't wasted. Used for building, charcoal, so forth. And we look at us today. We've become very dependent on cereals as a staple food, especially the oats. A lot of people with the gluten-free, they were avoiding the wheat, but the oats and the rye and the barley, still very popular. And I like the imagery of the goddess Gronya. Here she is. She's going to sleep just as the barley is cut. A beautiful image. Now, in the standard story, Dolchu collapsed. She died at Lunasadh time. So, and that's what happened to John Barleycorn as well, doesn't it? So Lu, who was become High King, declared that each Lunasa is a time for clans to meet and there be competitive but friendly games to celebrate the strength and stamina of his foster mother, Teal'c. And this is said to be the original site, the original games that Lou gave orders for it. And there's a close-up of the henge. And the farmer's very willing for you to go up there. It's situated somewhere between Navan and Kells, not far away from Kells, really. And the Scottish Highland Games. They said that the games that you get, the Scottish Highland Games, the tossing the caber from the trees that Teal'c had taken down, of course. Also the throwing of the hammer and the various things that go on at the games is said to have happened at the games in Meath. And then that tradition just went up. It's now regarded as the Scottish Highland Games. Of course, the Olympics at this time, very related. They've all descended from that. Also, variations from that, the farm animal and produce shows that are all around the country now. And the fairs, there's loads of fairs because where there's games, where there's animals brought together, showing off the wares, there's going to be stallholders. Then they become fairs, and probably the biggest one in Ireland is Ballycastle. I was going to feature some of them, but let's talk about Ballycastle up in Northern Ireland. That's an old photo of Ballycastle, and that's the big one. It still is the big one. And there are other fairs in the north, and one of the things they celebrate there, one of the stallholders is, I love this stuff. If I can, it's a shame one of the photos has vanished. I was hoping for more. Let's see now. That's the picture of, some of my pictures are not up. Have a thought about that. That's called Yellow Man. That's a honeycomb sweet. And I've just got to get my ducks in a row so I can finish off this show. Again, I've got some freezing of photographs that I wanted to show you. We got John Barleycorn. Right. Hold on a second right, here we go. We got the horse fairs up, haven't we? Right. Right, I think I'll be back with you. I think some of the freezing has gone. Right, yes, I'll be back with you in a moment. There we go. But I haven't got that. I had another one. I had another Yellow Man photograph, and it's just totally gone. Anyway, Ballycastle also has a horse fair. That's what I was showing. So there's the Ballycastle horse fair going on whilst all the other trading is going on. And that's something that spread around Ireland. There's horse fairs all over Ireland around this time. I think that's a lovely photo there. And there's a lot of horse symbolism going on also around this Lunasadh. And that's an ancient stone showing the horse goddess, Epona. But I haven't got any time to go through the horse stories of this time this year. But horse racing is included on this. That's Epona, yes, thank you. Horse racing on the beach. That's another thing of this time that comes from the Epona stories. And again is a variation from the horse show. So serious things. And the reason for that, you've got these... the farmers have brought in their first harvest, any excess from the first harvest, they brought into those fairs. They've traded their produce. They've got money in their pockets, something to exchange with. So what do? They paid some of their debts, but they're off to have a flutter with the horses with some of the rest of the money. That's how the horse racing started up because of that. And there was a grueling one, the most grueling horse race. They don't do it anymore, if I can find that. There we go. It's Loch Owl, which is near Mullingar. That's a very, a lot of lives were lost on that. And unfortunately, horses drowned too, to cross Loch Owl to an island that's there. So there was quite some big wagers on that one. That's in Westmeath. Loch Owl one. Anyway, to take this full circle and go back to the mating dances at Bilberry, picking and Garland rituals on this Bilberry and Garland Sunday. Let's not forget the matchmaking festival. And there we go. They usually have a matchmaking festival. It used to be the end of, it used to be in August, but now it's a regular of September. But because of COVID, it hasn't been on for a few years. And because there's still plenty of COVID around and people get very intimate at these matchmaker gatherings, Lughnasadh, it's not going to start happening again until 2023 next year. Right, comments here and amongst stuff going. Love the artwork. Carrots in dry sand, that's right, definitely. They're great in the dry sand because as long as it stays dry, they don't start rooting or growing greens. They actually stay. But the importance is, I said earlier, I described earlier, it's best to pick these crops at new moon. And the new moon was on the 28th. And if you go back to the earlier part, I explained the reverence, especially in Hindu reverence of Lammas, which is the new moon that's closest to what we relate to in our Gregorian calendar anyway. Pick them at the right time and they will stay fine in the sand along with the beetroots and the parsnips and so forth. So again, thank you for your continued support of Nature Folklore Show. As I say, that's the subscription thing there. If you can help us, I can cover the cost. If you don't like going through PayPal, a card can go through Buy Me a Coffee, Nature Folklore. Anyway, to tell you what's coming up as well. But thank you for support because I need that to keep the show going, even if it is cutting off every now and again. Coming up next Sunday, as I say, Claire and I are actually taking the first vacation. We've not had a leisure day even for 5 years. So this is our first time, Claire and I, for 5 years. We're away off to Mayo, Thursday onwards, I believe. So we're off to the west of Mayo for a few days. And this means I'll be wrapping up Lunasa with the amazing Crom Crack and Crom Dove legends. Following that, this gives you pictures again with the croms. If I've got some crom pictures, if they've come up, here we go. Let's give you some different ones. This is the sort of thing. That's the sort of thing we'll be talking about. And this is actually a Crom Dove statue that was in a museum in Cavan that was taken from a stone circle. And that'll be on the 14th of August and 21st of August. That's spread over 2 Sundays because there's a lot of stuff with that. Fragments of traditions we may still enjoy from those, and they're inspired by those ancient harvest stories. Then on the 28th of August, I'm actually off the air again because I'm off to the Woodland Festival in County Roscommon, Clonallis Estate. It was so amazing when it was on before the COVID. Definitely want to go again, and I'll do video recordings. I might give you a live beat from there if that's possible. So it might not be totally dry on 28th of August. If I can do a little live feed, show you what's going on, I will do on the 28th of August. Anyway, 4th of September, back in the studio, it's going to be the Apple Stories edition. And then the 11th of September, believe it or not, off the air again because going to be visiting my family in Scotland. I've not seen them for 3 years. And my daughter's also back from New Zealand in Scotland. And I haven't seen them probably for 8 years, I suspect, something like that. But I'll try and do spontaneous broadcasts at different locations during these breaks. But never fear, Nature Folklore will be back regularly, definitely, after these various breaks. 18th of September, I'm going to be looking forward to presenting the Apple and Avalon stories, 18th of September. And then there's that marathon, 8 Sundays of Soan traditions, starting with the Witches, Cauldrons and Ales. That's the first 3 of the Soan tradition ones, and that'll kick off at the end of September. So, let's see what you're saying with that. Well done, John, with the comings and goings. and I can't get Cliff's thing. It's frustrating, but you go through amicably. Enjoy your week and deserve jolly next week. And Jane, thanks for a wonderful edition, Nature Folklore. And there's all sorts of stuff there. Enjoy your break coming Sunday. Definitely catch up on the episode with the replay. And Penny Stevenson, have a lovely time with Claire, much deserved break. Looking forward to catching you up, as I say, with the Crom Dove with the Crom Dove. Following that, before the Woodland Festival, which I hope I can get live to you. And then it's apples, and then off to Scotland. And I might do something from Scotland as well, very briefly, because there's incredible apples growing there. And then we have that lovely 8 weeks of Sawan stuff. So thank you, amazing guests, Cliff Carr and Grace Wells. Beautiful work with you. And that's it. Trying to get rid of stuff here. There we go. So that's it, isn't it? If you're watching this broadcast as an archive video, please keep your comments coming, because I'll return from time to time to answer them. And subscribe below. The bell there will get you notices from YouTube. Be reminded of the details of the following Sunday sessions that are coming up. So enjoy a safe week, everybody. And I trust it's going to be full of wonder for you. Something else here. Very exciting edition, says Jane. Have lovely travels and reunions. And let's get back here. And what we got? So enjoy that. As it's been lovely being with you, even though it's been on, off, switch on, off, trying to rescue the thing. So enjoy a safe week that's full of wonder, the inspirations, and all the enchantments of Lunasa. Lovely being with you. Lovely getting your comments. So until next Sunday, play well. And I think that's all I got today. So that's it. Bye-bye. Thanks very much.